Any UFO enthusiast would tell you that the world is teeming with strange occurrences, sightings, government disclosures, and the sudden appearance of unknown craft. In 2021, the CIA declassified thousands of pages of UFO-related documents. And yet, modern-day mysteries are only the latest in a long history of unexplainable phenomena. And one of the most bizarre and chilling tales comes from Japan. It's the legend of the Utsurobune, a mysterious otherworldly vessel. This tale suggests that we might not be the first to toy with the idea of visitors from space. The Utsurobune arrived as early as 1803. It was described as a ship not of wood or sailcloth, but something alien. Professor Tanaka Kazuo of Gifu University, who has dedicated decades to the study of the Utsurobune legend, has pointed out that the mysterious ship of this tale resembles a flying saucer. And it was long before the modern concept of UFOs saw the light of day. So, on February 22nd, 1803, off the coast of Hitachi Province, Japan, the sea seemed to give birth to an enigma. Fishermen spotted a strange vessel. It was unlike anything they had seen before, so they felt pretty unnerved when they dragged it to shore. The craft was over 10 feet tall and nearly 18 feet wide, and it had an uncanny resemblance to a koro, a traditional Japanese incense burner. But it was made not of clay or wood, but strange, lacquered rosewood on its upper half and metal plates on the bottom. As the fishermen peered inside through glass windows, they saw that an unknown script adorned the walls. They could neither read nor understand those symbols. Inside, there were cakes, water, and bedsheets. It was creepy cargo for a vessel that defied logic. And then there was another mystery, a woman. She seemed to be around 20 years old, with skin as pale as porcelain. Her red hair was long and had strands of white. She was dressed in long, smooth garments of unknown material and spoke in a language no one recognized. But the strangest thing was the box she carried. It was a rectangular object that she clutched tightly. She didn't allow anyone to touch it, no matter how persistently they asked. Rumors spread like wildfire. Most people remained cautious. They feared that tampering with such a mystery might invoke dark forces beyond human understanding. So, they chose to let the sea take its prey. According to some sources, the woman was returned to her vessel and sent back into the ocean. Those who had found her were chilled by the encounter. They were afraid that something terrible had been set in motion. In the darkness of the night, one could almost hear whispers that the Utsurobune was not the first of its kind to drift ashore, nor would it be the last. Indeed, that Utsurobune was not a single isolated incident. Other accounts exist too, scattered across time and place. In 1698, a woman in a hollow ship was said to have appeared in Toyohashi. She was sent away when no one could understand her language. And in the decades that followed, sightings of Utsurobune and other strange vessels continued, each one described as eerily similar, with passengers who spoke no known language and carried strange objects. The legend continues to evolve. In 1977, 2 rare ink prints were discovered. They revealed new details and locations tied to the Utsurobune. It seems that this story, this riddle, has never quite been solved. Were those visitors from other worlds, or probably from other planets? Could those legends, with their uncanny similarities, be tied to the same truth? Were the Utsurobune vessels real, or were they the product of imagination? We don't have a certain answer yet. Imagine this. Long ago, in the depths of prehistory, aliens visited Earth. Yep, that's right. According to ancient astronaut believers, intelligent extraterrestrial beings made contact with humans thousands of years ago. And not only that, those alien visitors influenced the development of our cultures, religions, technologies, and maybe even our biology. All those divine beings in many ancient religions? Well, some say they were actually aliens with fancy tech, mistaken for deities by early humans. The pyramids, Stonehenge, Easter Island statues, all alien handiwork. At least that's what they claim. Ancient astronaut believers often claim that humans are either descendants or creations of those extraterrestrials. Aliens supposedly came down from the skies and kickstarted our civilization. To back up their theories, these believers point to so-called out-of-place artifacts. They take ancient artwork, legends, or even unusual archaeological finds and say, look, that's proof of alien contact. Mainstream historians and archaeologists, of course, have different perfectly reasonable explanations for all this stuff, but ancient astronaut enthusiasts aren't convinced. Instead, they argue that gaps in our historical records and the mysteries we can't explain must be the work of extraterrestrials. So, how about we hear them out? The most famous proponent of ancient astronauts was Erich von Däniken, the author of the pseudo-scientific book, Chariots of the Gods. He popularized the theory that many ancient deities were actually aliens. He even suggested that those extraterrestrials were light-skinned and Aryan in appearance. Uh-oh. At the same time, the notion of ancient aliens didn't start with von Däniken. It traces back to the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Early sci-fi novels like Edison's Conquest of Mars and the works of H.P. Lovecraft first toyed with the idea. The concept took off in the 1950s, gained even more traction during the space race in the 60s, and became a worldwide phenomenon. And even though many critics discredited von Däniken's work by the 70s, his influence was strong in fringe circles. Surprisingly, scientists today agree that the idea of ancient astronauts isn't impossible, but they add that it's definitely unnecessary. The so-called mysteries of history can all be explained through science, archaeology, and good old human ingenuity. No aliens required. But ancient astronaut believers often point to religious texts, suggesting that myths about gods descending from the heavens are actually tales of aliens arriving on Earth. Take, for example, the Sumerian myth of the Anunnaki. Some people interpret it as aliens coming to our planet to mine gold and creating humans as their slaves. In Hindu mythology, there are flying vehicles called vimanas, which believers say are actually ancient spaceships. Now let's finally figure it out. Did aliens visit ancient humans? Well, some people think so, and they believe the Bible might actually have proof. For example, in the Bible's book of Genesis, there's a story about the sons of God marrying the daughters of humans. Their kids were called the Nephilim giants who roamed the planet. Some Christians think these sons of God were just different families of Adam and Eve's kids. But others, as well as ancient astronaut theorists, argue that those were actually aliens who mated with humans, creating half-human, half-alien hybrids. The King James Version of the Bible even translates Nephilim as giants. In the Book of Enoch, which adds more detail to Genesis, it says that 200 angels, known as the Watchers, came to Earth, bred with humans, and taught them all sorts of things like metallurgy, magic, and astrology. Those angels, disobeying God, were eventually locked up, and God sent a flood, aka the story of Noah's Ark, to wipe out the Nephilim and the humans who had learned forbidden knowledge. Ancient astronaut believers think that this story is about aliens who were supposed to simply observe humans but broke the rules and got involved, and their offspring are the very Nephilim half-alien giants. Some also say that modern UFOs carry those fallen angels or their descendants still roaming our planet today. Let's move on. In the book of Ezekiel, the prophet described a wild vision of a huge fiery cloud with strange creatures and wheels sparkling like gems. Those beings had 4 faces, wings, and shiny bronze legs. The wheels, with the help of which they moved, were full of eyes and could go in any direction without turning. Sounds pretty sci-fi, huh? Ancient astronaut theorists believe Ezekiel described a spaceship, possibly piloted by extraterrestrial beings. This idea has been floating around, pun intended, since the 1950s. Some theorists also claim that the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest that held the 10 Commandments, was some kind of advanced alien technology. The same goes for other biblical objects like the Urim and Thummim used for divine communication. In the 1960s, some authors suggested that many biblical events, including miracles, were really alien tech at work. Even more shockingly, Barry Downing, a Presbyterian minister, even argued that Jesus himself was an extraterrestrial. He pointed to certain verses where Jesus said, "I am from above." The minister believed that it could have been the proof that Jesus had been an alien visitor. Some proponents also suggested that the biblical idea of hell could actually be the description of the planet Venus. The theory goes that ancient aliens might have shown early humans photos of Venus's fiery, inhospitable surface, and that inspired the idea of hell. They also claim that God and Satan were alien beings who disagreed on whether humans should be given forbidden knowledge. Others compare this to the Greek myth of Prometheus, the hero who gave humans the knowledge of fire. Some even say that the original sin in the Bible, when Adam and Eve disobeyed God, was actually about alien offspring mixing with early humans. But hold on, there's even a claim that the Book of Invasions from Irish mythology, which talks about the arrival of the Tuatha De Danann, is actually about aliens arriving in Ireland. According to the legend, they came in dark clouds and caused the sun to disappear for 3 days. Ancient astronaut theorists think this could be a reference to spaceships with cloaking devices. Now, some people think that ancient artwork is full of clues that aliens visited Earth a long time ago. Let's dive deeper into the details. Ancient astronaut believers point to cave drawings, especially those from the Hopi and Zuni tribes, that show Kachina's certain spirit beings and say they might actually represent star people, which means extraterrestrials. They argue that similar drawings found around the world are proof that aliens visited many different ancient civilizations. There are also examples from places like Australia and Italy, drawings there look a lot like astronauts with dome-shaped helmets. Some people think those cave pictures show early humans encountering aliens wearing spacesuits. Another source of potential evidence comes from medieval and Renaissance paintings. Ancient astronaut fans claim that many artworks from this time show UFOs. For instance, in Madonna and Child with the Infant St. John, there's an odd object in the sky that people say looks like a flying saucer. You'll find more in other famous paintings like The Annunciation by Carlo Crivelli, Holy Trinity by Bonaventura Salimbeni, and Miracle of the Snow by Masolino da Panicale. However, experts, like Italian art historian Diego Cuoghi, argue that these objects aren't UFOs whatsoever. They symbolize religious ideas like angels, radiant clouds, and others. One of the most popular ancient astronaut claims is based on the Nazca lines in Peru. These huge ground drawings, depicting animals and geometric shapes, can only be fully seen from high above. Some think they were created according to instructions from aliens, or that the long lines might even have been runways for their spaceships. At the same time, archaeologists say there's no proof of this. They think the lines were actually used for ancient ceremonial purposes. One researcher even recreated a figure using just simple tools to show how they could have been made by the Nazca people themselves. But wait, there's more to consider. Some artifacts like the Saqqara bird from Egypt and the Quimbaya artifacts from Colombia, Ecuador, are said to look like modern planes or gliders. Ancient astronaut believers think these might have been models of alien spacecraft, even though mainstream archaeologists are sure that they're just stylized representations of birds and insects. Then how about sites like the Pyramids of Giza, Machu Picchu in Peru, Baalbek in Lebanon, Stonehenge in England, and the Moai statues on Easter Island? They often get linked to the idea of aliens. These structures are so massive and precisely built that humans of the time couldn't have made them without help from extraterrestrials. Mainstream archaeologists don't agree and say ancient people had the skills and manpower to move even huge stones. There have been experiments showing that large megaliths can be transported using simple ancient technologies. And still, some believers argue that the sudden rise of ancient Egypt's advanced civilization, and especially the construction of the pyramids and the Sphinx, was due to extraterrestrial influence. Now look at these massive Moai statues on Easter Island. They have puzzled people for a long time. Some ancient astronaut believers say there's no way humans could have moved such heavy structures without using alien technology. But in the 1980s, a group of researchers figured out a method that involved using ropes that made the statues walk across the landscape with the help of just a small team of people. But how will you explain this fact? Some ancient cultures, including the Egyptians and some Native Americans, used to artificially lengthen the skulls of their children. Ancient astronaut believers think they did this to mimic the appearance of extraterrestrials, whom that they might have seen as deities. Pharaoh Akhenaten and his family, who are often depicted with elongated heads and other unusual features, have also sparked theories of alien influence. Scientists believe that such features were probably caused by a genetic disorder due to inbreeding, which was common in royal families. Akhenaten was known for worshipping the sun god Aten, and some suggest his focus on the sun could be tied to a disease that sunlight helped relieve. Now let's get one thing straight. Mainstream scientists and archaeologists are not buying ancient astronaut theories. They call this whole thing pseudoscience, arguing that such wild claims often twist, misinterpret, or even outright fake evidence. The Pentagon has recently released a report, and according to the New York Times, they haven't found any evidence of aliens, spaceships, or visits from extraterrestrials. Last summer, a former U.S. intelligence officer named David Grush claimed at a congressional hearing that the U.S. might have been hiding secret programs for decades to detect and study aliens and their tech. He even said the U.S. had pieces of alien spaceships and even actual alien remains. However, the 63-page report put together by the U.S. Department of Defense's Anomaly Resolution Office says that since the 1960s, people have been confusing American spy planes and drones with UFOs, or what they now call unidentified anomalous phenomena. Pentagon spokesperson Patrick Ryder said they were keeping an open mind, but found no proof of aliens or hidden government programs. He mentioned that most sightings were just normal objects or misidentifications. In February last year, after a few unidentified flying objects were shot down over the US and Canada, an interagency group was created to look into the whole UFO situation. At the time, John Kirby from the National Security Council noted that this phenomenon had been around for a long time, but previous administrations hadn't really tried to explain it. Now, why is the ancient astronaut theory so popular? The human brain needs an easy way to explain incomprehensible things, and blaming them on some extraterrestrial powers is a simple way to do it. The supporters of the theory often take fragments out of historical and cultural contexts, ignoring the broader meaning of those pieces. Plus, they assume that alien technologies must be similar to ours, and that aliens must be interested in the same things as humans, which would be very unlikely even if aliens existed. The ancient astronaut theory, despite its popularity in certain circles, is classified by the scientific community as pseudoscience, since it does not comply with the principles of the scientific method and is often based on distortion of facts or false analogies. At the same time, come to think of it, the universe is unimaginably huge. Does it really sound possible that in the vast, constantly expanding cosmos, we're the only intelligent, technologically advanced civilization? What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments. Picture this. We finally make contact with aliens. Exciting, isn't it? But then comes the big question, how do you even start a conversation with beings who might be as different from us as apples are from algebra? Enter Olaf Witkowski with an idea that's, well, pretty out there. He thinks the best way to say hello to extraterrestrials is to threaten them. Here's his reasoning. No matter what kind of alien life form we're dealing with, whether those are slimy space blobs or super advanced warriors, there's one universal trait all life shares: the will to survive. It's the basic definition of life itself. His idea is to make them feel like their survival is under threat because, as he puts it, they'll understand that. Essentially, it's like tapping on a fish tank to see if the fish are awake, except these fish might be armed with laser beams. But hold on, this idea isn't about actually hurting anyone. Witkowski's whole point is that survival is a language that surpasses biology or culture. If aliens perceive us as a threat, it might actually open the door to showing them we're capable of cooperation too. Once we've got their attention, we might even find common ground in the basic instinct to stay alive. Sounds like nihilism to me. But before you start picturing Witkowski as some kind of evil sci-fi villain, let's clear that up. He's anything but. Think of him more like a philosopher meets scientist. Calm, introspective, and all about exploring ways to create understanding. He's traveled the world, mastered about a dozen languages, and dedicated his career to studying how AI systems cooperate. If anyone's got a shot at cracking the code of alien communication, it's this guy. Still, not everyone's convinced by his poke the aliens approach. For decades, scientists have been discussing the theory that math and physics could act as a universal language. The idea is that if we beam a signal containing something like prime numbers, the aliens would recognize it as intelligent. After all, a prime number is a prime number, whether you're in the Milky Way or Andromeda, right? Well, perhaps not. Carl Sagan, an American astronomer and planetary scientist, once tested this idea by handing a coded message to talented scientists at a party and asking them to decode it. Spoiler, they failed. And if humans can't crack a supposedly universal message, what makes us think aliens would? Then there's the old debate about whether we should even want to meet extraterrestrials in the first place. Many SETI aka Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence researchers are optimistic, arguing that any civilization advanced enough to travel between stars must also be peaceful. After all, they'd need to have avoided destroying themselves to reach that point. Plus, let's face it, Earth probably doesn't have anything they can't find somewhere else in the galaxy. mining our planet for resources when there are countless uninhabited planets out there just seems like bad economics. But not everyone's so sure. Some argue that the galaxy might still be a survival of the fittest kind of place, where the most aggressive civilizations end up on top. Even if most aliens are peaceful, who's to say there aren't a few space pirates out there looking for trouble? On the other hand, what if aliens aren't here to conquer us, but to study us? Maybe their way of reaching out is by testing our survival instincts, kind of like saying, hey, let's see what you're made of. To them, it might not seem hostile at all, a version of a handshake, even if it feels like a punch to us. So what do we do if that day ever comes? There's no perfect answer. Some scientists will keep sending out math problems into space hoping for a friendly reply. Others might be more open to riskier strategies like survival-based mind games. Either way, first contact is bound to be a scenario unlike anything we've ever faced. And if you were in charge, would you try Witkowski's approach and poke the alien bear to start a conversation? Or would you play it safe and hope they send us a "we come in peace" message first? J. Allen Hynek, an astrophysicist and ufologist, coined the term close encounter, or CE, in his book The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry, published in 1972. He defined a CE as experiences where a person witnesses an unidentified flying object at a relatively short distance, reducing the likelihood of perceptual errors. Hynek introduced a rigorous classification system widely recognized as the Hynek scale, and it's one of the most significant contributions to ufology. The classification includes 6 categories, but only 3 are considered close encounters. The distinction between distant and close encounters lies in the observer's proximity. Events occurring within 150 meters are classified as close. To better visualize the scale, think of it as a staircase, where each step brings us closer to the unknown. The first 3 steps of the classification involve phenomena observed at distances greater than 150 meters. Nocturnal lights refer to unusual lights observed at night, often red, blue, orange, or white, with unexpected movements or speeds. Daylight disks are objects seen during the day, typically disc-shaped or oval. Radar visual phenomena involve UAPs confirmed by radar, which, while adding credibility, can sometimes be attributed to atmospheric anomalies. Steps 4, 5, and 6 are classified as close encounters, made famous by Steven Spielberg's film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which references Hynek's work. A close encounter of the first kind involves sightings of strange flying objects within 150 meters. At this distance, observers can discern details that would be impossible to detect from farther away. Close encounters of the second kind are more unsettling and involve physical effects on the observer's surroundings, such as interference with devices, unusual animal behavior, or physiological effects like paralysis or heat. Evidence might include scorched vegetation, chemical traces, or other inexplicable marks. These incidents suggest that while the object might go unnoticed by the naked eye, its presence leaves a tangible impact. Finally, the 6th step involves the close encounters of the third kind, the most intriguing of all, involving direct interaction with beings from space. Hynek described these beings as animated entities, which could include robots, humanoids, or humans appearing to be UFO pilots. After Hynek's death, fellow researcher Jacques Vallée expanded the scale in his 90s book Confrontations, a scientist's search for alien contact, adding 2 more steps, which were quickly embraced by the community. These are the 4th kind and 5th kind. The close encounters of the 4th kind are known as abductions, and also include episodes of transformation of the sense of reality, such as vivid hallucinations or dreamlike episodes related to UFOs. This also inspired the title and content of the science fiction movie The 4th Kind by Olatunde Osunsanmi. At the top of the staircase, we have the close encounters of the 5th kind. They occur when humans initiate contact with extraterrestrial beings, typically following specific protocols. Some interpret this step as involving physical effects from the encounter, such as injuries or unexplained healings. Over time, the 5th kind has become associated with direct communication between humans and aliens, emphasizing a mutual exchange. Now, this is no joke. Many individuals consider themselves contactees due to experiencing extraterrestrial encounters. Hynek described these contactees as recipients of messages of cosmic importance from usually benevolent beings. These beings often convey peaceful messages aimed at helping humanity resolve conflicts. Contactees often report recurring experiences and additional messages. From the 1940s to the 1960s, contactees became a cultural phenomenon, writing books and giving lectures. Skeptics often dismissed them as dishonest or influenced by false memories, hallucinations, or a lack of scientific understanding. Whether fact or fiction, contactees consistently describe aliens as humanoid beings delivering messages against violence, crime, and nuclear weapons. They portray them as striving to help humanity achieve peace and unity. Their reports often include men in black, mysterious figures allegedly working to suppress these messages. Sound familiar? It's no coincidence that this idea inspired the popular movie franchise. Have you ever experienced any of Hynek's steps? Or heard a blood-chilling story from somebody close to you? Let us know in the comments. And if you're curious about why beings from other planets might be observing us, well, we have some videos about that too. Did you know that reports of strange object sightings are quite common? The British Ministry of Defense reports at least 100 UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, sightings every year. That means there have been at least 2,400 reports in that country alone since the year 2000. A UAP is considered to be anything that cannot be immediately explained or identified. Usually, most reports find an explanation, such as atmospheric phenomena or known objects. However, the portion that remains unexplained is undoubtedly the most intriguing. Throughout history, there have been waves of sightings. One of the most well-known occurred in 1947, famously referred to as the flying saucer madness. That summer saw a flood of reports across the United States, with approximately 800 sightings that year alone. On that occasion, a local news story reported by a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold claimed to have seen disc-shaped objects traveling at speeds of around 1,200 miles per hour in a line of 9, passing over Mount Rainier. This was the first post-World War II sighting and is considered the report that marks the beginning of the modern UFO era. Returning to this century, there are at least 15 well-known cases. Let's examine some of the most striking examples. Number 1. The first case we'll look at has even sparked NASA's interest. It concerns the unexplained activity in a small town in the United Kingdom called Bonsall. Residents have reported and documented numerous cases of unexplained activity, earning it the nickname UFO hotspot. Reports range from silver shapes to strange lights in the sky. In 2001, Sharon Rowlands accidentally filmed a house-sized disc with colored lights around it. The video caught NASA's attention because it resembled an object spotted during a 1996 space mission. However, the only conclusion NASA reached was that the object was metallic and didn't match any known commercial or military aircraft. Number 2, this case is from 2004 and concerns the Tinley Park lights in Illinois, United States. Residents reported inexplicable lights in the sky, which were also seen in neighboring cities like Chicago. Witnesses claimed to have seen a triangular pattern of red orbs hovering over the town. Other witnesses stated that the lights displayed a range of colors, from amber to greenish yellow. Skeptics who saw the lights firsthand dismissed them as an elaborate prank, but no definitive explanation was found. The lights were seen twice that year and remain a mystery to this day. Number 3. The next case involves some of the most viewed footage of sightings. The unexplained videos from 2004, 2014, and 2015 recorded by pilots of the USS Nimitz and USS Theodore Roosevelt. The fighter jets managed to capture these strange flying objects using their infrared tracking cameras. In 2021, the Pentagon officially confirmed the authenticity of these recordings. Fighter pilot Commander David Fravor of the Nimitz stated that the object had been appearing for 2 weeks when he was called to investigate the case. The object appeared at an altitude of 80,000 feet, descended rapidly to 20,000 feet, and then hovered. Fravor reported seeing an oval-shaped object approximately 10 feet, 3 meters long flying over the ocean. He and other pilots accompanying him stated that they were able to observe the object for about 5 minutes before it disappeared. It was Commander Chad Underwood, in a second wave of investigation and equipped with an infrared camera, who managed to capture the first video, showing the object's erratic movements. Number 4. This case occurred in 2006 and is known as the O'Hare International Airport sighting in Chicago. Around 4:15 p.m., 12 United Airlines employees and several witnesses outside the airport saw an unidentified flying object resembling a flying saucer. The object was hovering over gate C-17. It was also seen by pilots, airline staff, and mechanics. Witnesses described it as completely silent and dark gray in color, adding that it clearly wasn't a cloud. A witness claimed that the object shot upwards at incredible speed, leaving a hole in the clouds that quickly closed. Despite numerous testimonies from people shocked by what they saw with their own eyes, authorities refused to pursue an investigation, as the alleged craft did not appear on any radar. Number 5. This case was cataloged as the 2024 New Jersey drone sightings. Interestingly, the appearances occurred on both the east and west coasts of the United States multiple times. These large, unidentified drones were seen near residential areas, power plants, railways, highways, and critical infrastructure, such as ports, bridges, and police stations. Over 3,000 reports were collected, but investigators couldn't determine an explanation. The Department of Homeland Security stated that the drones were manned aircraft operating lawfully. At the same time, the federal government called for legislation and additional resources to address the drone activity. According to a legislative briefing, the drones were up to 6 feet, 1.8 meters in diameter, operated for 6 or 7 hours, often turned off their lights, acted in a coordinated manner, and evaded detection. They most certainly did not seem to be flown by hobbyists. To this day, the operators or points of origin remain unidentified, but official investigations attributed most of the drone sightings to manned aircraft or misidentifications caused by nighttime illusions. Some even suggested mass hysteria, recalling the notorious 1947 flying saucer madness. Which of these cases sent chills down your spine? Let us know in the comments. And if you're curious about the latest unidentified phenomena, don't miss our video on the FBI's recently published UFO documents. Night enveloped the desert above Heraklion. A group of archaeologists moved through the labyrinth of sunken ruins, illuminating their path with powerful flashlights. Suddenly, one of the researchers, Dr. Martin Hale, stopped in front of a temple wall. He carefully brushed away a layer of sand and discovered a strange bas-relief. A woman holding a creature with an unusually elongated head and enormous eyes. "This can't just be a stylized depiction of an infant," whispered his colleague, Alice Carter. "The Paracas skulls in Peru have similar shapes. Could this be evidence of hybrids?" The question remained unanswered, but the mystery of Heraklion continued to intrigue scientists. Theories ranged from ancient cults to contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. However, biologists established that elongated skulls could be the result of artificial cranial deformation, a practice common in ancient times. No DNA analysis has shown traces of non-human genetics. Meanwhile, in another part of the solar system, the Viking 1 probe transmitted an image to Earth of a rock formation on Mars resembling a human face. The photograph instantly became a sensation, fueling conspiracy theories. "It's just pareidolia," astronomers stated. "The human brain is wired to recognize familiar shapes in random forms." Decades later, when NASA sent more advanced spacecraft, images confirmed that the face on Mars was merely an ordinary hill, with shadows creating the illusion of facial features. However, proponents of the ancient Martian civilization theory insist that the truth is being concealed. No less mysterious are the artifacts of the Maya civilization. Their bas-reliefs depicting beings resembling astronauts, their complex astronomical calculations, and myths of gods descending from the heavens suggest possible contact with extraterrestrials. Some researchers associate Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, with alien beings. However, historians remind us that such imagery appears in many cultures and may carry purely symbolic meaning. In Scotland, on Arthur's Seat Hill, children stumbled upon 17 miniature wooden coffins with tiny figurines inside. The origin of these remains unresolved. Were they ritual offerings, connected to the murderers Burke and Hare, who sold their victims' bodies for medical research, or simply children's toys mistakenly perceived as something mystical? Some theories suggest they could have been a form of symbolic burial for souls who never received a proper grave. Others believe they were connected to an ancient superstition meant to ward off evil spirits. Another hypothesis suggests they were linked to an old Scottish practice of making talismans for protection against supernatural forces. The Antikythera mechanism found off the coast of Greece is another ancient enigma. This intricate device, over 2,000 years old, turned out to be an astronomical calculator ahead of its time. Studies revealed that the mechanism was used to calculate planetary movements and eclipses, proving the advanced knowledge of ancient Greek science. Many researchers now believe that similar devices might have existed, but no other examples have been discovered. Recent images from the Perseverance rover uncovered mysterious square structures on Mars. Geologists attribute them to natural crystallization and erosion processes, but UFO enthusiasts are convinced they are ruins of ancient constructions. The formations bear a striking resemblance to rectangular patterns seen in some ancient Earth structures, further fueling debates about potential past life on the Red Planet. In Germany, during excavations near Marburg Castle, students discovered a pocket sundial. The miniature device, several centuries old, amazed researchers with its precision and craftsmanship. Who owned it? Was it part of monastic heritage, used for prayers on a strict schedule? Experts believe that such sundials were rare and expensive, likely belonging to high-ranking individuals or scholars deeply engaged in astronomy and mathematics. Yet one of the most intriguing discoveries remains the Sabu disk, a 5,000-year-old artifact from Egypt. Its purpose remains debated. Some believe it was a ritual object, while others think it had a technical function, possibly part of an ancient machine. Some engineers speculate that its shape suggests it could have been part of a primitive flywheel or a component of an unknown mechanism. Certain studies suggest it could have been related to liquid movement or even served as a part of a lost mechanical system. Despite extensive research, its true function remains an enigma, adding to the ongoing fascination with the technological capabilities of early civilizations. The world is full of mysteries. Every solved enigma raises new questions. Were these artifacts merely the result of human ingenuity, or evidence of contact with forces we have yet to understand? As new discoveries emerge, the past continues to challenge our understanding, reminding us that history holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. On a cold January night in 1978, two neighboring military installations, Fort Dix Army Base and McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey, became the stage for events that might have forever altered our understanding of extraterrestrial presence on Earth. Known as the Fort Dix Incident, this case remains one of the most enigmatic and heavily classified stories in military UFO encounters. A quiet night, shattered by the unexplained. Around 3 a.m. on January 18, 1978, Security Patrol Officer Sergeant Jeffrey Morse was conducting a routine perimeter check at McGuire Air Force Base. Everything seemed normal until radio chatter reported unidentified flying objects hovering over nearby Fort Dix, moving in tight formation and emitting an eerie bluish-green glow. Radar operators soon confirmed the anomaly. These objects maneuvered in ways no known aircraft of the time could. They hovered, changed direction abruptly, and vanished from radar screens as if toying with their observers. A close encounter turns violent. By 3:30 a.m., the situation escalated dramatically. A military police officer at Fort Dix, patrolling a remote section of the base, radioed that an oval-shaped object with no visible features had descended over his vehicle. Suddenly, a humanoid figure, about 4 feet tall, with grayish-brown skin, an oversized head, and elongated arms, appeared in front of him. Panicked, the MP drew his sidearm and fired 5 rounds into the being, followed by a 6th shot at the hovering craft. Immediately, the UFO shot upward and vanished, while the wounded creature fled toward the fence, separating the two bases. The cleanup operation. Within minutes, a team of unidentified soldiers in blue berets, with no insignia, arrived, cordoning off the area and pushing back regular personnel, including Morse.
Witnesses later described how the team sprayed the body with an unknown substance, covered it with a white sheet, and placed it inside a large metallic container marked with blue symbols. By dawn, the container was loaded onto a C-141 cargo plane bound for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, a facility long rumored to house classified UFO-related materials. Aftermath: enforced silence. 2 days later, Morse and other witnesses were flown to Wright-Patterson for interrogation. In a stark room facing 3 men, one a silent civilian with a pipe, Morse was forced to sign a lifetime non-disclosure agreement. Soon after, all involved personnel were reassigned to overseas bases, effectively scattering them across the globe. Morse was sent to Okinawa, Japan, where he spent 2 years before finally breaking his silence. Fact or fiction? In 1980, Morse reached out to UFO researcher Leonard Stringfield, sharing his account. His story gained credibility when Major George Filaire, an intelligence officer stationed at McGuire, confirmed unusual activity that night, mentioning that something was found dead on the runway, though details were withheld from him. Skeptics argue the incident could have been a test of a military biodrone or experimental entity, a psychological operation, PSYOP, to study human reactions, an elaborate hoax or misidentification, yet the military's extreme response, immediate witness isolation, rapid evidence removal, and lifetime gag orders suggests something far more extraordinary. Conclusion: a secret still waiting to be uncovered. Over 45 years later, the Fort Dix incident remains buried in secrecy. If Morse's account is true, this could be the first documented case of military personnel killing a potential extraterrestrial being. Until classified documents surface, key questions linger. Was this a genuine extraterrestrial encounter, or an elaborate cover-up for advanced military technology? One thing is certain: that night in 1978 changed the lives of those involved and left behind more questions than answers. What do you think? Could this really have happened? Or is it just another military urban legend?
It's the year 1977, and astronomers are stunned. They've just picked up a bizarre and really powerful radio signal coming from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. The signal shockingly matches the frequency of neutral hydrogen. What's the big deal? This is the very frequency many astronomers believe might be used by extraterrestrial civilizations trying to communicate. Since then, the signal has become legendary in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, aka SETI, community. But what exactly was that mysterious signal? To understand this, let's go back to the 1970s when the Ohio State University Big Ear Radio Telescope was active. For more than 2 decades, from 1973 to 1995, it played a major role in the university's SETI program. By the way, it was the longest-running SETI project in history. And in 1977, Big Ear detected something extraordinary, the WOW signal. This wasn't just any signal. It was a strong narrowband radio signal, right near the important neutral hydrogen frequency. The Big Ear telescope might be gone now, but the mystery of the WOW signal still fascinates scientists today. Imagine this. You want to tell an extraterrestrial civilization about humans. How would you describe our average height? We can't use feet or inches because these units mean nothing to them. Even here on Earth, we don't all use the same measurements. To communicate with other civilizations, we need a universal way of conveying information. Luckily, the emission of light by matter comes from an electron jumping between quantum states in an atom. This process, governed by quantum mechanics, results in specific and fixed radiation frequencies and wavelengths, no matter where you are in the universe. Since we believe the laws of physics are the same everywhere, these wavelengths are universal. This makes them a perfect standard of measurement that any civilization could understand. For example, on the Pioneer spacecraft's gold plaque, we used a particular wavelength as a unit of length to describe information about humans and the spacecraft's origin. So, if an extraterrestrial civilization wanted to talk to us, they could have used the frequency of the wow signal. And that's pretty amazing. The signal lasted the entire 72 seconds that Big Ear was tuned in. A few days later, astronomer Jerry R. Amon was looking over the data when he spotted the unusual signal on a computer printout. He was so surprised that he wrote "wow" next to it, and that's how the signal got its famous name. The signal also has another, not so exciting name, 6EQJ5. Some people thought it might be a hidden message, but it actually just shows how the signal's intensity changed over time. The wow signal sparked all kinds of theories. Some people believed it was a sign of extraterrestrial life, while others were sure that it was some interference from human activities. There were those who believed it could be a natural phenomenon we didn't understand yet. New research seems to have finally solved the mystery, but there's one thing we'll talk about a bit later. First, let's get into detail. A team of scientists, led by Abel Mendez from the Planetary Habitability Laboratory at the University of Puerto Rico at Arecibo, revisited the mystery using data from the now-closed Arecibo Radio Telescope, collected between 2017 and 2020. These observations were similar to those made by Big Ear, but they had better sensitivity, resolution, and polarization measurements. Arecibo detected signals similar to the wow signal, but there were some important differences. These signals were less intense and came from multiple locations. The scientists believe that these signals, including the original wow signal, can be explained by natural events in space. Their theory sounds like this. The wow signal was likely caused by a sudden brightening of hydrogen due to a strong, short-lived radiation source. It could be a magnetar flare or a soft gamma repeater, SGR. A magnetar is a neutron star with a way stronger magnetic field than ordinary neutron stars. And an SGR is an astronomical object which emits large bursts of gamma rays and X-rays at irregular intervals. In any case, such events are pretty rare and depend on very specific conditions. But they can cause hydrogen clouds to light up for short periods. According to the researchers, what Big Ear picked up in 1977 was one of those bright hydrogen clouds in its line of sight. The study suggests that the signal's rarity can be explained by the precise alignment needed between the radiation source, the hydrogen cloud, and the observer. It means that the wow signal may actually be the first recorded instance of an astronomical maser flare in the hydrogen line.
Now, I'll bet you remember the furthest planet from the Sun is Neptune. When European astronomers argued about what to call the newly discovered eighth planet back in 1846, they settled on the name of the Roman deity of the sea. This ice giant is 4 times the size of Earth. And if our planet was the size of a nickel, Neptune would be as large as a baseball. At the same time, the ice giant is 17 times as heavy. If you were approaching this icy world, it would seem blue and perhaps inviting. But this blue surface is actually a layer of swirling gas and permanent clouds. So don't get your hopes up. You wouldn't be able to land on this planet. Its mantle, made up of water, ammonium, and methane ice, is the closest thing Neptune has to a surface. But even down there isn't solid ground for you to walk on. Anyway, this distant planet is surrounded by mystery, and astronomers haven't cracked all of it yet. Why are the winds on Neptune so fast? Why does this world shed more heat than it gets? Why is its magnetic field offset? And what is the Great Dark Spot? Well, let's try to find some answers. Neptune is around 30 times as far from the Sun as our home planet. That explains why studying this distant world is so difficult. It also means that the planet gets way less light and heat from our star. But at the same time, Neptune radiates a lot more heat than is taking. If we compare Neptune to nearby Uranus, we'll see that even though Uranus is closer to the Sun, it emits almost the same amount of heat as Neptune. Astronomers don't know for sure why it happens yet, but of course there are theories because they're scientists. Some experts believe there is something fierce inside the blue planet that causes it to generate more heat than it receives. It might be the reason for Neptune's huge differences in temperatures, from minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit at the planet's rigid cloud tops to more than 12,000 degrees at the core of the ice giant. So you're going to want to dress in layers. Now, such temperature variations might be the reason for powerful windstorms. Their speed can reach 1,200 miles per hour. For comparison, the most powerful winds on Earth move at a speed of 250 miles per hour. Another curious thing about Neptune's winds is that they are blowing westward, which is backward to the rotation of the planet. A study published in 2013 supposed that the winds on Neptune would appear in thin layers no more than 600 miles thick. Such a shallow depth might mean that condensing and evaporating moisture could produce those crazily fast air currents. Then there's the issue of Neptune's magnetic field being offset. If you were to overlay a magnet on this planet, it wouldn't line up with the center. Astronomers aren't sure why it happens. Magnetic fields are produced by moving currents, and all the planets, including Earth, are believed to have some conductive material moving in their bellies. But with Neptune's belly, it's a bit different. Its magnetic field is tilted at 47 degrees to the planet's rotation, which means that the rotation and magnetism aren't aligned inherently. And don't forget about the Great Dark Spot. No, I'm not talking about the most massive storm in the solar system. That one is called the Great Red Spot and is located on Jupiter. I mean a corresponding spot on Neptune discovered by Voyager 2 in 1989. In 1995, the Hubble Space Telescope turned its eye on Neptune, but disappointingly, by that time, the spot had already mysteriously vanished, and scientists have no idea how exactly it disappeared. But guess what? Another dark spot has been found on the ice giant. Astronomers have known for quite some time that, from time to time, Neptune's surface gets dotted with such spots. These bizarre discolorations have been linked to high-pressure areas, coming and going over the course of a few years. But no one has seen a dark spot forming until recently. Since then, astronomers have been observing the birth of dark spots quite regularly. Now they have a much better idea of where and when these huge vortices might form. Now, despite assumptions, astronomers once thought Neptune was a boring, featureless world. The ice giant has a hyperactive atmosphere. It's turbulent, with cloud ripples and severe storms. Plus, this planet has a ring system. Disappointingly, those rings are not distinct hula hoops circling Neptune, like those of Saturn. The ice giant's rings are weirdly chunky and contain gobs of material that form arcs in the outer ring. Astronomers explain that these clumps are actually places where loads of ring particles are stuck together. What it means is still unclear. But my favorite thing about Neptune is this one. Astronomers believe that deep inside the planet, there might be a layer where it rains diamond crystals. Intense pressure and temperature inside Neptune break methane molecules apart, releasing carbon. These carbon compounds find their fellow molecules and create long chains, which then get squeezed together, forming beautiful crystalline patterns like diamonds. When these diamond formations drop through the layers of Neptune's mantle, it gets too hot for them. That's why they vaporize, float back, and, you guessed it, repeat the cycle. Now you know why it's called diamond rain. How about a fun little experiment? Let's say we exploded Neptune, in the name of science, of course. As you already know, this planet doesn't have a solid surface. That's why, after activating the process, you'd see Neptune's liquid mantle burst. It would look like a water-filled balloon thrown down from the 50th floor. Disclaimer, don't do this at home. The impact would send splashes of water, ammonia, and methane ice away into space. It'd be followed by lava-like remains of the planet's mantle, liquid and red-hot. And then there would be a hurricane of solid rocks. That's what would be left from Neptune's solid core made up of iron and other metals. Okay, let's put this pretty ice giant back together. I've got one more experiment for you. let's replace the Moon, yes, our good old satellite, with Neptune. The ice giant is definitely way larger than the Moon. The planet would look like a bright blue hot air balloon in the sky, and we would see it not only at night but also during the day. It would appear to be 15 times larger than the Sun. If everything else remained the same, solar eclipses would seem to continue for ages. Once the Sun vanished behind Neptune's edge, our planet would be plunged into complete darkness for no less than an hour and a half. And since Neptune is also much more massive than Earth, its gravitational pull is much stronger. That's why, instead of getting itself a powerful companion and protector, our planet would end up as a satellite. Yep, Neptune's moon. It would orbit Neptune slightly further than its own largest moon, Triton, and there would be a great risk of Earth colliding with this space body. Uh-oh. But let's assume we were lucky enough not to cross paths with any of Neptune's satellites. Even so, we would have more than enough problems. Tides on our planet would be 1,000 times more powerful than those caused by the Moon. Neptune's gravitational force wouldn't pull Earth apart, but it would heat our planet up. Like we need more of that, huh? The seismic activity would increase, setting off earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Well, that sounds unsettling, so let Neptune remain where it is now. I'm okay with a good old moon. Now we're done with the experiments, but hear me out. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, there's a mysterious Kuiper belt filled with massive icy objects. The most curious thing about this space formation, though, is that scientists fail to explain the pattern of its movement. The only explanation they have is that Neptune might be hiding another big planet from our sight. Are they in cahoots? This hypothetical planet has already got the name Planet 9, and all we have to do is wait until its existence is confirmed. Or not. Ooh, from giant spiders to venomous snakes, we all get freaked out by Australian creatures. Yeah, me too. But newly discovered fossils show that things were way more dangerous 120 million years ago, when this land was completely ruled by massive razor-clawed megaraptors. Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't around then. These dinosaurs were about 26 feet long and walked on two legs, just like the famous T-Rex. They were fast, fierce hunters, with a superpower: their hug. Yep, their massive, muscular forearms had huge curved claws, perfect for grabbing and holding onto prey. Uh-oh. They would wrap their arms around their poor victims, just like a hug, and trap them with no chance of escape. And even though their teeth were quite small, they were still sharp enough to rip through flesh. The first time we heard about megaraptors was in the late 90s, when a paleontologist discovered their fossils in the region of Patagonia, Argentina. Since then, no one has ever found a complete skeleton, only fragments. But probably the most important one yet was uncovered in Australia at the beginning of this year. Researchers were exploring Victoria's stunning coastline when they stumbled upon megaraptor fossils. First, they spotted bones from its lower legs and a few vertebrae washed up on the beach. Even though they were working with just a couple of fragments, a deeper analysis confirmed that these belonged to a megaraptor. And not just any megaraptor, it was the oldest one ever discovered. This discovery gets even more exciting because it adds weight to the theory that these dinosaurs might have originated in Australia. But we already knew that they roamed the land down under since early 2023, when researchers found the top of a megaraptor skull in the country. So let's rewind a bit. We first found their remains in Argentina, right? Right. But then, years later, researchers found fossils of the same family of dinosaurs on the other side of the world, in Australia. If the ones in Oceania were older, how did these creatures end up in South America? Of course, they didn't fly there. They didn't cross continents by swimming either, although there is a theory that they could swim. Remember, we're talking about the dinosaur era, which happened millions of years ago. And back then, Australia and Argentina were actually pretty close. Basically, they were one. Both lands were part of the supercontinent known as Gondwana, and they were connected through Antarctica. Wait, but wasn't this path freezing? I mean, yeah, these dinos had to pass through Antarctica to get to their destination, but they weren't freezing their tails off. This all happened during the mid-Cretaceous period, when the weather was super warm. Back then, the poles were covered in plants, not ice. So let's just say they took full advantage of the good weather to make the crossing. Now, about 180 million years ago, Gondwana started to break apart. At some point, Australia drifted away from the supercontinent, cutting it off from other landmasses, including South America. That's why the same dinosaurs showed up in completely different parts of the world. Mystery solved. Now, let's get back to that recent discovery. The researchers didn't just find a few traces of megaraptors on the beach. In total, they uncovered 250 dinosaur bones at the site, but only 5 of them were really important. They belong to 3 different species of dinosaurs that, as it turns out, all lived in Victoria at the same time. So yeah, we've already talked about those first 2 bones. They were from the megaraptor. Next, we have a shin bone from a Onenlagiine. That's my best shot at pronouncing it. It's a dino also known as the southern raptor. This is a type of dromaeosaur with a long snout. And the last 2 shin bones of different sizes came from a Carcharodontosaurus, whose name means shark-toothed lizard. This one is a particularly big deal for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the first evidence that this species lived in Australia. And number 2, it was small, and that is pretty surprising since we've always thought of this species as being massive. Fossils found in Argentina, for example, show this dinosaur reached a length of about 36 feet. But the one in Australia was much smaller, measuring only around 6 to 10 feet long. And that's still plenty big. Basically, what we're saying is that the way predators were ranked in these 2 parts of the world was completely different. In South America, Carcharodontosaurs grew to massive T-Rex-sized giants, towering over megaraptors and dominating the landscape. But in Australia, it was the complete opposite. There, huge, powerful megaraptorids roamed the land alongside smaller Carcharodontosaurs. So the predator dynamic was different. And all of this just shows how unique the ecosystem in Victoria was back then. Although isolated dinosaur bones have been found in Western and South Australia, most of the fossils come from the eastern part of the country, like Queensland. And there, researchers dug up something really, really rare – a well-preserved dinosaur skull. The study shows that this bone belonged to the 4th discovered specimen of Titanosaur. This group includes those massive long-necked dinosaurs. They look like the Brachiosaurus, but some of them were even bigger, reaching 120 feet long. The skull, discovered in 2018, belongs to this guy, whose pronunciation is above my pay grade, and the research points out that it roamed the Earth around 98 million years ago. Thanks to this find, scientists were able to recreate for the very first time what its face might have looked like. Probably after checking out the illustration, they thought, hey, it looks a lot like its cousin. They were talking about another species of Titanosaur, this other unpronounceable guy. And guess where they used to live? Yep, in Argentina. So, this research also supports the theory that dinosaurs crossed between South America and Australia during the mid-Cretaceous period. Now, this wasn't the only secret buried in Queensland, though. In 2024, researchers working there discovered the fossilized remains of a new species of pterosaur, about 100 million years old. These creatures were the first vertebrates that could actually fly, existing alongside dinosaurs. They were massive, powerful predators, with wingspans of up to 36 feet. But these remains belong to a new species within the pterosaur group, which they have named Hakuna Matata, or something similar. Compared to their cousins, they were on the smaller side, with a wingspan of about 15 feet. Still, that's bigger than a snowy albatross, the largest flying bird we have today. This species of pterosaurs were terrifying beasts, flying over the ocean to hunt for prey. Once they spotted their victim, they'd snap open their 60-centimeter jaws, filled with sharp spike-like teeth, and, well, I guess there was no escaping that. The last incredible discovery we're talking about today also comes from Queensland. For over 20 years, students walked past a plain-looking rock at Biloela State High School completely unaware that it held 66 dinosaur footprints, and they date back about 200 million years. These prints were made by a group of these Latin-named guys. They were small dinosaurs with 3 toes on each foot, and it seems like they were all over Queensland around that early Jurassic period. The rock they found at the school worked like a snapshot, giving us a better idea of what these dinosaurs were like and how they behaved. After taking a closer look, researchers found that the footprints came from 47 individual dinosaurs. This group was probably walking along or maybe crossing a waterway when their footprints got marked in the white clay. And the study also discovered that they were likely moving at less than 4 miles per hour at the time. So we only discovered those marks in Australia. But fossils of the same species found in other countries showed that they had these long legs, a big chunky body, short arms, and this tiny head with a beak. But honestly, they don't sound as scary when you realize they only ate plants. Whew.